Very good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for clicking on to the Sunday live stream. It is the 128th edition of the Global Weather and Climate Live here from Marfogan Weather HQ in Edmonton, Rossshire. How is everybody doing this afternoon? It is good to be on once again on this rather gloomy, foggy afternoon here in Edmonton. We've got very, very foggy skies. The temperature has only managed to reach 0.3 Celsius at for a maximum so far. So obviously we are struggling to get much above freezing. I think the temperature is around about a half a degree below the freezing mark at the moment. So we've got Thunder Snow is the first person on today's chat. What in Beasts stories, Mark? So yeah, I'm assuming it is what is the story with regards to the Beast from the East. That is what I'm kind of reading between the lines. There seem to have cooled off a wee bit. Yes, obviously there was never really a mention 100% about a Beast from the East, but a tame easterly remains in control through probably the rest of this week or the week coming up anyway. We've got definitely not that random guy says the models have flipped. Hello and welcome everyone, says Lindsay sitting next door. So thanks very much to Lindsay for the moderation of today's stream. Greatly appreciated. Hello to David Fogan down in Kirkintilloch, Joyce Fogan as well. Hope you are both doing well. Mum and Dad, we've got Turbo Stream. Good afternoon from a rather dull and damp Birmingham. Simon Davis also tune in. Good afternoon to Simon also. We are going to kick things off by looking at some of the big stories that have grabbed the weather headlines around the world in the last few days. We've seen massive snowfall in parts of Japan, a place that is very susceptible to epic snowfall as Siberian winds blow across the relative warmth of the Sea of Japan. Hits Hokkaido, which is the island in the far north of Japan, and quite often we see Amori City, Obihiro, I think it is, that tends to see remarkable amounts of snow during the course of the winter season. So we'll kind of wait for a few minutes anyway, and then I'm going to show you a couple of videos from Queensland, Australia, as well as up in the north of Japan. Epic rainfall we've seen in Queensland in the last week or so. More to come. We're also seeing remarkable amounts of snowfall. So we're seeing two extremes of precipitation, one in Japan, one down in Australia. And as a consequence of all that rain, we're seeing below average temperatures for the month so far. These are the current temperatures as of CDAS 0.5 through the first 9 days of February. And we do have a little shot of below average. Let's zoom in actually to Australia, and you can see a little bit clearer that bullseye of below average temperatures. This is across the continent of Australia. We've got the exceptional warmth over the interior of Western Australia. We've seen temperatures as high as 47 Celsius in recent days, but we're seeing exceptional rainfall, and as a consequence, we're also seeing below average temperatures. Also, we have got our own weather to speak about, interesting things going on. So we'll look at that and we'll do our usual kind of tour around the planet to see what exceptional conditions have been across other areas of the world as well. Good afternoon to Paul Farwell. Good afternoon, Mark. Chilly and dank in Swindon. No sunshine. I think there's many places, unfortunately, Paul, across the UK that has seen a lack of sunshine today. That easterly flow, nothing particularly noteworthy in terms of an easterly, certainly no beast from the east anyway, but we don't have a huge amount of cold air sitting over the continent at the moment, so the easterly flow is rather tame, where we've got temperatures comfortably above the freezing mark. Factor in a breeze, it's feeling closer to freezing, but nevertheless no great shakes. We'll look at a little bit at that in a little second or so. We've also got City Andy tuning in. Good afternoon to City Andy. Hope you are well, my friend, and keeping well. And yeah, let's crack on then. I'm going to show you this video real quick from Queensland, and this is some of the information that is coming out of the Australian networks with regards to the rainfall. Hope you can hear this quite well.
Fresh bursts of monsoonal rain have seen flood threats renew in Queensland's north. Towns remain cut off tonight after highways went underwater, while the collapsed Alera Creek Bridge is closed again after reconnecting communities.
Groundhog Day again in Queensland's north.
I've come to see my family in over a week.
Communities already devastated by over a week of relentless rain going under once again.
A lot more water in here now. It's almost up to 1.8, big block in the shed.
The risk of widespread heavy falls somewhat reduced, but monsoonal bursts still packing a punch into already swollen catchments. Garoo residents waking up to an emergency alert, warnings to move to higher ground, the Horton River well above the major flood level and likely to stay there into tomorrow. At Groper Creek, further south, each home an island.
Had another obviously significant rise overnight.
Even after the rain eased, water slowly rising through lower levels.
I have 6 steps down to my landing and then another 5 which is underwater obviously at the moment.
Roads going under at Eyre and Home Hill. Further inland, the highway in and out of Charters Towers cut off on both sides. Precious cargo lifted into town though. Operation Beer Drop loading a helicopter with cartons. Attached below, a net filled with kegs flown through the air to the historic Courty Hotel, straight to thirsty, waiting patrons.
So many people are calling me like a hero and that, but I think I was just doing what anyone would do. I've probably got enough for about another 3 or 4 days. If I've got to do another chopper run, I'll do it.
While more firefighters arrived to bolster their response, including swift water rescue specialists. Back on the coast, an ADF replacement for the Alera Creek Bridge north of Townsville, smashed apart by surging floodwater earlier this week, taken down as of tonight.
We're hopeful that in the first half of next week, Tuesday would be amazing, that the road will be able to open again to traffic.
Allowing a higher standard temporary...
So anyway, that is the conditions that parts of Queensland has been experiencing through the course of the past several days, probably the best part of this week overall. And quite a nasty one. According to this tweet here from Weather Monitor, we have seen as much as 1.7 metres of rain in some areas, 1 day, thousands evacuated from low-lying areas, and we've seen at Cardwell within a 3-day period over 1,000 millimetres of rainfall. And so this is a wet part of the world anyway, especially at this time of the year. It is summer down under while it's winter up here across the north, as I'm sure most folks know. Let's move on then and take a little jog to the north of Australia up to Japan, where we have seen some remarkable snowfall in the last several days. This is from the north of Japan, and check this out. This is only a 45-second video, so it's not particularly long.
Finally, to Japan, where the country's northern island of Hokkaido saw record-breaking snowfall on Tuesday. The city of Obihiro recorded some 120 centimeters of snow within a 12-hour period, setting a new national record for the most snowfall in that time. The Japan Meteorological Agency attributed the extreme weather to 2 powerful low-pressure systems, channeling cold air into the region. Numerous flights have been cancelled, while roads, train services, and 370 schools have been closed as a result. Residents and visitors have been advised to practice caution and carry shovels and warm clothing in their vehicles.
So that was from Obihiro City in Hokkaido, northern Japan, where, like I said before, this is a part of the world that is typically very, very snowy. You've got the combination of Siberian winds blowing over a relatively warm Sea of Japan waters. Then that moisture gets driven into the mountains of the far northern island, and we see orographic lift. All the ingredients come together perfectly. And what is probably another factor is the fact that we've seen warmer than average sea surface temperatures around the Sea of Japan. If we look at the latest SST anomalies here, so let me just bear with a little second here. Let's have a look at the Western Pacific, and this is Japan right here. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit, and you can see. So these are the anomalies. So these are the water temperature anomalies, and you can see it has slightly cooled a little bit near the Russian side of the Sea of Japan, but these bitterly cold winds, not a great deal of water to blow across, so these winds stay rather cold. And then once they meet the mountains of western Hokkaido Island, they drive tremendous amounts of snow. These snow streamers, similar to what we see in the Great Lakes, especially around the Tug Hill Plateau area of upstate New York, where winds blow over Lake Ontario. That water creates moisture, so as the cold, dry winds blow over the relatively warm lake surface, it drags up moisture, and then that is driven inland by in the form of very heavy snowfall. We see that sometimes here in the UK, a little bit of sea effect snow, dry, cold winds blowing off the continent, cross over the relative warmth of the North Sea, and we see these snow streamers set up that can provide significant amounts of snow. We've seen that in late February 2018 with the Beast from the East. We've seen it even in February 2021, and we've seen it obviously in years going by when you've got particularly potent winds blowing in off the cold continent. The problem that we've got here at the moment with regards to this, we've got a Great Scandi High. Yes, there is a little bit of a break in that easterly flow. It's not connecting Siberia with the UK, and winds are actually coming in from a more southeasterly direction, and it's not a particularly cold source in which these winds are blowing from, so therefore you're not getting particularly cold temperatures as a consequence. And also the moisture that is getting driven in off the North Sea is generally falling as rain and sleet as opposed to any appreciable snow. So what's the weather conditions like where you are? My guess would be that it is largely cloudy. It's foggy here. The temperature is slightly below the freezing mark at the moment. So we've got 43 concurrent viewers at the moment. A very warm welcome if you're just joined in. Thank you very much for tuning in, and be sure to hit that like button. It really does help a lot. I know every YouTube video you hear the same thing, but by simply pressing that like button, it really does help the algorithm of the channel. It creates a bit more of a platform for the channel within the YouTube social media platform itself. It spreads the love through the platform, and it helps Marfogan Weather become a little bit broader in terms of its reach. So a very good afternoon to Hazel Kitching. Thanks very much, Hazel, for tuning in. Hope you are doing well. And how are things down in Hull? I'd be curious to know what your weather conditions are like down in Hull, Hazel. So let's have a quick check then and see how things are looking in our part of the world. So this is the high pressure system across Europe. At the moment, we've got two areas of high pressure centered. The high over Western Russia, by the way, has eased off in intensity quite a bit. Pressure down around 1045 millibars. It was up at around 1056 millibars. We had near record high pressure into the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. We've also got in fact, the strongest high is actually over southern Norway at the moment. We're actually dragging in a little bit more of an easterly as opposed to southeasterly. We're going to start to see that taking place as the high and the strongest heights build a little bit closer towards the UK and Ireland. But you can see here, if you follow these lines of equal pressure, the isobars, they're actually drawing air in from the southeast of the continent. So if we put on the current temperatures, these are how things are looking. We've got quite a west to east split. We're starting to cool things off over Western Russia, the far east of Europe. Still holding on to something less cold the further west you go, and particularly down towards the southwest into Portugal and Spain. We've got the highest temperatures around 18 Celsius in the south of Spain at the moment. We've also got David Bond tuning in. Good afternoon to David. It's wet and a few degrees, not much sun at the moment, says David. We've got Katrine tuning in. Good afternoon to Katrine. Who else have we got here? I think I've mentioned Turbo Stream already. If I haven't, hello. I think I'm starting to get a little bit more forgetful in my old age. But these are the current temperatures. Let's have a look at the current wind chill when you factor in temperature and wind combined. And again, nothing exceptional even for Eastern Europe at this time of the year. Early February can be, close to the coldest time of the winter for particularly Eastern continental areas. And this is the current winds in kilometers per hour. So we've got some breezy conditions up across the far north, but generally speaking, we don't have a huge amount of wind out there across the continent. Let's have a look at the UK specifically, and these are the winds. So we've got light air wind. We've still got a bit of a breeze, especially in the east, and down across England and Wales, where you're more susceptible to that wind coming in off the North Sea. We've got some blustery conditions here through the East Midlands, for example, around Hazel's area of Hull and down into East Anglia, but it's not really that particularly windy out there, really. When you look at the current temperatures, this is how things are looking. So we're generally anywhere from around the 0 mark here, where you've got the fog in place, where you've got any sort of sunshine at all, where maybe 7 Celsius, for example, on the west coast. But there is a lot of cloud cover out there. But temperatures, cool, but nothing particularly cold to speak about, especially when you've got an easterly wind. As I've already said, these are the current wind chills. So you can see here that the temperatures, even with wind chill, is still slightly above the freezing mark. Looking at the global picture then, let's have a look and see what the current temperatures are, because we also have some pretty extreme conditions across the United States. We're seeing record warm temperatures. We're seeing very cold conditions up across the north of the United States. Big contrast. We actually had a 100-degree temperature, so 38 Celsius down in Texas. Seeing temperatures close to -18 across the northern tier of the country. And what we are going to see is colder temperatures start to set in. But these are the current temperatures across the United States at this very moment in time. So we've got -30s, even -40s up across the north of Canada, for example, -48 Celsius in Wekwiti, I think that is. It's actually showing an air temperature of -38. Wait a minute. These are the wind chills. Bear with me. So yes, that stood out there. I thought, wow, -48 is pretty darn cold. But no, these are the current temperatures. So -38 Celsius in Wekwiti, which appears to be in the Northwestern Territories. We've got some slightly less colder even across the northern tier of the country at the moment. We've got the temperatures as of this Sunday morning of around 23 Celsius down into South Texas, but there has been some pretty noteworthy record highs. New Orleans, for example, 2 weeks ago we had 10 inches of snow, and the past couple of days we've had temperatures as high as 85 degrees Fahrenheit in New Orleans. So what a dramatic contrast that is. These are the current temperatures down under, so obviously we are now into what would be the early portions of Monday morning, but we've been seeing temperatures in that western interior well into the 40s in recent days. Again, you expect that in Western Australia, in the desert at this time of the year, but they are running rather high. This is the current temperatures down in Brazil. So we've got the widespread upper 20s, low 30s. We've got temperatures high in northern Argentina as 40 degrees. So we're talking about some very, very hot conditions down in parts of South America. So let's have a quick look here. This is Weather Monitor's Twitter feed. In fact, let's say, before we look at the extremes around the world, let's have a quick look at the temperature anomalies globally through the first 9 days of February. So let me just see and check if anybody is saying a lot. Oh, we've got Paul James also tuning in, and Sink Splint. So we have got our other two moderators tuning in. Very good afternoon to Paul and Sink Splint. Thank you very much for joining in this afternoon. Hope you are both well What else have we got here? So it's about 6 Celsius here at the moment in the Hull, says Hazel. We've got Frog's Legs Matthew also tune in. Good evening, says Frog's Legs Matthew. David Bond, you should rename yourself as the Mark Office. Very good, David. I like it. What's the weather conditions like where you are, David? You probably actually said already. I don't know, my friend. But you are based in Dunfermline, I believe, if I'm right in saying that. Let me see who else is saying what. So yeah, cloudy, damp, 5 Celsius here in mid Hampshire, says Paul James. So these are the current temperatures. We've got 57 concurrent viewers at the moment. If you've just joined in, a very warm welcome. I love doing these live streams that have been going exactly a year this month. So it's yeah, I personally, I think they've been fantastic. It's been great to be able to interact with people, get a little bit of interaction going between each other on the live chat, answer some questions, giving shout outs, doing this little tour around the world every Sunday afternoon. It is a lot of fun, I must admit, and I greatly appreciate you subscribers, all the views on the videos. It has been a fantastic support that you have given me, and it is massively appreciated, each and every one of you. We also had an interesting flip in pressure, by the way. Back last month, we had Storm Eowyn. I finally now managed to get the pronunciation right, by the way. I think throughout my coverage of Eowyn, I was saying all sorts of names. Eowyn, whatever the wrong name, basically I was able to come up with that. But it looks as if since that's long gone, I've managed to nail the pronunciation of Storm Eowyn. But back then we had a pressure at 948 millibars in Northern Ireland. That was Northern Ireland's lowest pressure of all time since at least 1900. The record does still stand in the late 1800s of, I think it was 925 millibars around the Belfast area. But in the modern era, 948 millibars was recorded with Storm Eowyn, and that was Northern Ireland's lowest pressure since at least 1900. Interesting enough, we had a pressure of 1047 millibars back the middle portions of last week, with that area of high pressure that built from the south over the UK and up into Scandinavia. Pressure at 1047 millibars, by the way, according to Bruce Messer, who is an ex-Met man, said that that's the highest pressure for the month of February on record for the UK, I believe. So I hope that's right in saying that. But what a contrast. So we have the UK's lowest pressure for the month of January since 95. Then we have the highest pressure for the month of February, on record for the UK at 1047 millibars. So these big flips in terms of temperature, we've seen a temperature jump over 30 Celsius in 3 days in the north of Scotland back in that January cold spell when it ended. We've seen minus 18.9. Then at Castley in the Northwest Highlands, we've seen a temperature of 15.7 Celsius, the UK's warmest temperature for the month of January back last month. So always fascinating. It just feels as if in recent years, these flips, these dramatic contrasts between real cold and exceptional mild, heavy rainfall, different pressures, seems to be that we're just getting these kind of big swings back and forth. I feel like in recent times it's got more dramatic. Perhaps it's just my imagination, I don't know. But nevertheless, very interesting. Very, very mild start to the month of February, by the way, across the northern hemisphere. We've got some cold to speak about across parts of Mongolia. There's an interesting video that I'll try and remember to show you. South central portions of Russia, we've got an area of cold, but generally speaking, it's been an exceptionally mild winter up across Siberia. Yes, temperatures are still well below freezing, but we're seeing 20, 25 Celsius warmer than you would expect for the middle portions of winter up across the wastes of central Siberia. Look at the United States. It's been a very warm start to February on the back of what was the coldest January since 1994 for the United States. Very, very warm start to the month of February. And even here in Europe, we're starting to see the temperatures coming back closer to average due to the recent cold days. I say cold, I say that quite loosely because it hasn't been exceptional, but nevertheless it has been below average. So this is a look over the northern hemisphere for the start of February. And one standout is we've got some cold across central and southern Greenland, but very, very warm air across the Arctic, across much of Russia. We've got it also across northern portions of North America. We've got that warm area, cold across parts of southern Yukon into British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and then the further east you go over Canada, it's generally warmer than average. Across the northwest of the lower 48, we're seeing colder than average conditions, and I think we are going to drill some particularly cold air into North America over the next week or so, so stay tuned for that. And then even here across Europe, we have seen a very mild winter so far across much of the continent. For the UK and Ireland, we've seen a milder than average December, then a slightly colder than average January. February started off mild, but we're starting to chip away at that warm anomaly. We're actually starting to see temperatures going slightly below average now across the southeast of the UK. Over the last 3 days, this is how the temperature anomalies have looked. So I've seen that below average, and I think over the next 7 days or so, we're going to see the temperatures below average here in the UK, Ireland, and across. We're going to start to get colder across the north of Europe. We'll look at some of the models in a little second or so here. I'm feeling the chill, says Alex Kane. I think we are going to start to see temperatures coming down even here as well across the much of Russia. I think we're going to see below average temperatures coming up. Let's have a quick look at the GFS ensemble and see what it's indicating here in terms of the upcoming 7-day period. So just stay with me a second here. Modeling is updating, so we'll look at the 6Z run from this morning. This is the United States, by the way. This is upcoming 5 days, so we're starting to get colder and colder air pressing further south. Play through the loop, and you can see here that the cold starts to spread east across the lower 48. Let's move across to Europe then and see what the temperatures are looking like for Europe over the next couple of weeks here. Back to the upcoming 5 days, so below average conditions, nothing exceptional by any stretch. Look at Europe, we've not got much in the way of colder out with the UK, Ireland, really to speak about. A little bit of colder than average across parts of Turkey, for example. Play through this loop. This is the upcoming 6 to 10 day period. You can see here, still below average, but we're starting to cool things off across Scandinavia and Central Europe. Generally colder than average across the north, warmer than average across the south. Play all the way out till the end of the period, which is 20th through the 25th of February. Still got slightly below average conditions. Let's have a look at the CFSV2, by the way, because this tends to have a slight bias towards milder. This is the upcoming 7 days off the model. The following 7 days, that is starting to show colder, by the way. And this is something that I've been really harping on about in recent times, that the cold, especially towards the middle portions of the month, given these big, strong highs that build across the top, forcing the Arctic Oscillation to go negative. What is the negative Arctic Oscillation? It means when you're starting to see warmer air get lifted into the Arctic, it forces the cold. That's been building for the past few weeks. It forces the cold end to go down into the middle latitudes. Question mark has always been, where is that cold going to go? That's been something I've been alluding to here in the channel throughout the past week, that this cold is building, I believe anyway, given the overall synoptics across the northern hemisphere. And then as we move from the day, 8 to 14, then day 15 through 21, CFSV2 starts to wash out that cold anomaly. So let's have a look and see the upper levels here across the top and see what they're indicating in terms of the 500 millibar anomalies, because this is what is going to be the crux of where this cold pattern is going to go. So bear with a second here. Let's reduce this size slightly so it's easier for everybody to see. This is the mean sea level pressure, is it? Mean sea level pressure anomaly. Let's have a look at the upper level anomaly here for the upcoming 7 days. And look at all these positive heights. So this is what's happening. Remember, we've had a very powerful, if not record strong polar vortex. We've seen that coupling between troposphere, which is a lower level of the atmosphere up into the level above, which is the stratosphere. It's been fairly coupled, it's been quite vertically stacked in terms of nature. But once you start to build that warmth, as that deep trough over the northwest Atlantic versus high pressure over Europe, that channel in between allows subtropical air all the way up into the Arctic region, and by doing so it builds the pressure, starts to raise the heights across the top, and then forces the cold to then drop southwards as a consequence of that air getting warmed up in the Arctic region here. So this is the upcoming 7 days. You can see here strong positives on the northern side of the UK, extending all the way up into the Arctic, Greenland, Alaska. We've had these highs hooking up as a consequence of that deep low. Remember that 120 mile per hour gusts over Hawaii? We had heavy snowfall with blizzards over the mountains of the big island of Hawaii. That system, and this was talked about by Aidan McGivern on the Met Office Deep Dive back on Tuesday, about how the release of air up into the troposphere forces divergence, creates sinking downstream of that rising motion, and then that has an effect, a ripple effect right the way across the planet, and we're seeing that as a consequence all the way across to Europe here. So that little seed, that butterfly effect over the tropical Pacific, rippling its way all the way across the northern hemisphere, creating a change in the pattern. It's amazing to watch that, really, the evolution of the pattern and watching how meteorology just comes together. So this is the CFSV2, by the way, for days 7 through 14. Nice strong area of high pressure, Greenland, Arctic. We've got these negatives connecting with Europe and Eastern North America, forcing the jet stream further south. Let's have a quick look and see what the latest models are showing here. So let's move on first and foremost to the GFS and see. Let's look at the Atlantic and European view. So we've got that 1046 high extending anywhere from pretty much northern UK all the way across to Russia here. Notice that we don't have this connection, this direct supply of cold air from far eastern Europe into Russia all the way across to the west of Europe here. We're seeing the slight breaking apart of that airflow. But playing through, let's have a look and see what the 850s are showing off the GFS model and see what it's indicating. So I've alluded for the past several days, we've got these little lobes, these bunches of cold air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. That is going to run from east to west over the next week or so here. Paying close attention, remember the high pressure building up into the Arctic region. We've got plenty of cold air to tap into, but as the heights start to build northwards, down comes the cold as a consequence of that. And this is the latest GFS, not that far to the east of the UK and Ireland. We've got this minus 15, minus 20 Celsius air getting driven down over the continent here. Let's have a look and see what the ECMWF is indicating here. So we've got this fight here. Remember in yesterday's video, said that the Atlantic and the Arctic go head to head. What's going to win? As cold air builds south over North America as well as Europe, we're going to then start to trigger a more active jet stream across the Atlantic. That's going to then try and push milder air into Western Europe at the same time cold is coming down over the continent here. So we've got this battleground, and the UK is often in the fight zone between air masses. This is why it becomes complex and difficult to predict, because essentially the cold that's dropping into North America then creates a situation over the Atlantic where it wants to fight against anything coming in from the southeast or from the northeast of Europe. So the UK, from a geographical point of view, as well as it being beside a warm body of water, relatively speaking anyway, it's in the wrong place. Even though we're quite far to the north, in terms of latitude, we've got the wrong setup here to allow some of this minus 15, minus 20 Celsius air in on a regular basis. These are kind of one-off spells that maybe happen once every couple of years or so. But this is the ECMWF. So we play back through the sequence. Got these little lobes of minus 5 Celsius at 850 moving off the continent across towards the UK. But you see this southward plunge of essentially the tropospheric polar vortex. This is what you're seeing dropping south towards the end of this week. And look at the fight. So we've got this low building, developing, thanks to that strong jet stream that exit North America because of the cold air. Remember, there's two pieces of the tropospheric polar vortex. One piece is going into North America, the other into Europe, but one is actually fighting against the other. And it's the North American side that's fighting against the European side of the PV, and it's trying to push that cold air eastwards away from the UK and Ireland with that strong jet, deepening of low pressure. But you can see how it's so fine, the margins. So we could, we're on the brink of some pretty severe cold. As you can see here, this is Monday, 17th of Feb. But at the same time this is coming south, we've got the Atlantic trying to activate and trying to push that cold from coming in from the northeast here and play it right the way through. That area of low pressure then scoots on to the south, and we are right on that boundary between Atlantic and something much, much colder. So what do you think? People are saying that the models have flipped around. In my opinion, they haven't really flipped around that much, to be honest with you. They've been showing the kind of back and forth, going to an extreme in terms of cold, then backing off that idea and then coming back again. And like I've said for quite a long time now, the modelling has a hard time, number one, seeing where the cold air is going to go once that pressure builds into the Arctic region, forcing the cold southwards. But exactly how to redistribute this warm versus cold air mass as it moves into the middle altitude pattern, that is where the modelling has a difficult time trying to understand. But I made mention, in terms of beasts from the east, I made mention way back that dare I say, and I used that term, dare I say, that there is some model indications of a beast from the east developing. I quickly realised that modelling had backed away. Quite often the models show this extreme outcome, this extreme solution, and then it backs away from it. It did so. And we've seen this kind of moderate brand cold air. We've got it at the moment. We're going to continue to see it through the majority of this week. So we're going to stay below average in terms of temperatures, drier than average because it's an easterly coming off a dry continent. But the true question is going to come once that cold, that real piece of the tropospheric polar vortex drops south out of the north. It's exactly how close that air mass can get to the UK without this resistance from the Atlantic. This is going to be the big question. That's something we'll talk more and more about as we go through the next few days. So if you're enjoying the content, if you're interested to see the outcome of this air mass coming south, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a single penny. And there is videos Monday to Saturday at around 5:30, 5:45 each evening. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Soft, shallow, tune in. Britain is just situated at the worst place possible in the Northern Hemisphere for cold weather, all because mainly of the Atlantic conveyor belt. And that is absolutely true. Soft, shallow, I have to agree with you there. We've got Soot also tuning in. Good afternoon to Soot. And let me just see here if there's anybody else that has been tuned in since I was going off on a tangent as usual. I don't think there is. So let me see here. We've got Jesse Farrell, some interesting tweets by him. He is at AccuWeather in State College, Pennsylvania. Some interesting pieces of information that he has been sharing. So I had a tweet here. It's actually a retweet of Terry Goose. But look at this temperature here. Rio Grande Village in Texas, down in the southwest of Texas, we had a temperature of 37.8 Celsius, which is 100 degrees Fahrenheit exactly. Exceptionally high temperature for the first third of February anywhere in the United States. The January national record is 99, while the February record is 103 Fahrenheit. What a contrast here. Minus 23 Fahrenheit, 13 miles to the northeast of Poplar, Montana, where we had 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Rio Grande Village. And at one point, a few days ago, I had temperatures around 95 Fahrenheit or 35 Celsius at the same time, with temperatures close to the zero mark in Fahrenheit, which is about minus 16 in Celsius. So obviously it's a nation that gets extreme contrast anyway. But I want to show you this here. It's a tweet here. In fact, let me just go on to Terry's Twitter feed. What time is it? 25 in the evening here. So we're doing okay for time. So pretty extreme temperatures down in South America, as was said already. Chile, to be exact, 35, 38 Celsius in Metropolitania, I think it is. O'Higgins and Mole regions, 42 Celsius. Minimum temperatures down to 11.6. Temperatures at Summit Camp in central Greenland. Elevation, granted, is 3,204 meters above sea level, but it is the worldwide lowest temperature of February 2025. Temperature of minus 60.3 Celsius. Spoke about that 100 degrees in Rio Grande Village. Cold wave. This was at Jinyang, based in China, with some very, very cold temperatures, as you would expect, coming straight out of Siberia. You've not got any moderating influence of any sea or ocean. So this is a, unmodified cold coming straight out of the Siberian wastes. Seeing temperatures well below the freezing mark in parts of China, running in across the top of the Sea of Japan, picking up that moisture and driving it into northern Japan as epic snowfall. But this is an interesting one here, if I can find it. This here's an interesting one also. Yunnan encountered strong winds in a scenic area was temporarily closed. So it's clearly in a high mountain plateau, but very strong winds. I bet you that wind already felt cold. It looks cold looking at that image here. This is an interesting video. So the polar vortex, a piece of it, brought extremely cold weather to Inner Mongolia, again an area that is very susceptible to wild extremes, minus 40s in winter, plus 40 during the course of the midsummer. So obviously ground blizzards. My wife is probably just going to say you did not just do that on a live stream. That little dad dance I just did there. I hope you didn't notice that. But anyway, there's 65 people watching at the moment. So yeah, this is Inner Mongolia. So this is actually the far north of China. I get mixed up between Inner Mongolia and Mongolia itself. So this is the far north of China. Wind speeds 20 to 30 meters per second, which is at least gale force anyway. And with the snow that's already on the ground, we're seeing the winds whip that up, creating ground blizzards. But look at the beautiful blue Arctic skies. Always amazing to see. Always interesting tweets here by Jim Yang. China, like the United States, is susceptible to some wild extremes during the winter season here. But this is a tweet here back on the 5th of February. A cold wave is about to hit northern China, which we're seeing now. Lowest temperatures in Inner Mongolia and Shaanxi on the February 7th will be close to the lowest on record for February, with Beijing dropping to minus 13 Celsius. And we're also seeing that extend eastwards to South Korea and Japan. Is there any other interesting things? So obviously we're seeing record snowfall, 120 centimeters of snow falling within a 12-hour period. That is an all-time record for the nation, not just a site record, but a national record for that period of time, which is 3.9 feet of snow in 12 hours. Memuro in close by, 3.5 feet of snow or 105 centimeters, another all-time record. Another record here as well, 77 centimeters, which is 2.5 feet. And Sharanuka, also 69 centimeters, which is 2.3 feet of snow in a 12-hour period. Let's look and see here. Some epic snowfall in parts of Russia as well. But look at this here. This is incredible videos actually of the snow. This was back in Obihiro City. Not a very clear video, unfortunately. But we've seen temperatures into the mid -30s, close to -40 Celsius, which again isn't completely exceptional. I suppose there is some records falling in parts of northern China for the month of February. But let's move on to my own Twitter page here and show you this. This is from Norilsk, which I think is in eastern Siberia, if I'm right in saying. Is it not that peninsula hanging into the North Pacific? So pretty nasty conditions again. It's winter time. It's Russia. You're saying so, yeah. But nevertheless, it's always fascinating to see. Took a little road trip out to Rai, I think it is. Lindsay will be able to tell me the right pronunciation. Look at this here. This was our little road trip, about an hour and 40 minutes drive from here. Beautiful sunny skies. The lighthouse sticking out, overlooking the Minch. You can see the coolings of south Skye. You're looking all the way up through Lewis and Harris. Absolutely fantastic views from this beautiful moon as well. Not a great shot by any stretch because it's only off my phone, so it's not a very clear picture, unfortunately. Frogs Legs Matthew saying that's a blizzard. Certainly is. So let me see here what else is I can show you real quick. Let's have a quick look at the weather monitor and see what it is talking about at the moment. Disaster news. Volcanic is also an interesting feed to watch as well. Iran, heavy rains. This was a tweet back 7 hours ago. Heavy rains and rising levels in the Zarjub River have caused widespread flooding in Parabazar, Dianti, whatever that is, areas. 24 hours was seen Rashid recorded a record amount of 107 millimeters of rain, which is the highest in the country. So these are so again, an area that you would expect to see dry conditions, especially in the desert, but nevertheless, this was lower Manhattan back 7 hours ago as well. So heavy snowfall moving through the Big Apple in New York City. This must have been last night then, Saturday and Sunday in the New York area. So yeah, let me just see here. Anything else? An interesting video here. That's quite old, I think. Let me see here, just in the blizzard conditions. This is obviously in higher ground in parts of, so low level heavy rainfall, but high ground snow in Iran. Again, rather nasty conditions. So yes, let me just see here. Extreme temperatures around the world, and then we'll kind of round up. I think we've covered enough today. Again, remarkable warmth across parts of South America, Arctic warmth as well. Temperatures record levels all the way up into Tromsø in Norway, +8 Celsius by day, +5 Celsius by night. This is obviously up into the Arctic Circle as well. So again, that warmth getting lifted between the trough over the Atlantic and the high over Europe, passing across the top of Norway, creating record-breaking warm temperatures as a consequence. But this is what's causing that buildup of pressure up into the higher latitudes. Tweet again by Jim Yang saying this morning, cold wave penetrated deep into southern China with temperatures down to -9 in parts of the Shanghai area, breaking the February record. Chongming was the second lowest temperature in history after a cold wave quickly leaves China. It will rapidly warm. So this is the big fluctuations that we're seeing over parts of China. All-time record warmth in some places. Down in Australia, we're seeing temperatures as high as 47 Celsius. Minimum temperatures 34.8 Celsius. That's an all-time record in Leinster, I think it is pronounced. 85 degrees. So again, Temperatures struggling to get above the freezing mark. 10 inches of snow in and around the New Orleans area. Nighttime temperatures down to -6, -7 at the lakeshore. That's the coldest on record. 2 weeks later, we're seeing highs of 85 Fahrenheit at the New Orleans International Airport. So Auburn Park as well, 86 degrees, for a record for the month of February, which is tied for the all-time February record, I must say. But pretty remarkable swings in terms of temperature across parts of China, but also across North America. Also, we've been seeing that even across the UK this winter also. But playing through here, is there any other interesting standout pieces of information that I want to show you before I round things up? Like I say, we are going to start to see cold air coming south over North America, over Europe. Exactly where that goes, we will continue to monitor that here on this channel. So I encourage you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. So let's round things up there then. Massive thank you to everybody for tuning in to today's stream. I hope you've enjoyed today's content. Be sure to hit that like button before you leave. We've got Steffi Adcock tuning in as well. Good afternoon to Steffi. Hope you are well, keeping well. Yeah, just keep following along. Interesting week coming up of weather, looking at the UK, Ireland, Europe, but also on a global scale. Thanks to Mom and Dad, David and Joyce Vogan, for tuning in from Kirk and Tillich. Hazel Kitching, we had Katrine, we had Soft Shallow. I'll get there, a bit of a tongue twister. Soft Shallow is for me anyway. Britain is just, I've already read that comment. We've got Soot, we've got Paul James, Lindsay, and Sing Splint. Thanks to those good folks for moderating today's stream. Greatly appreciate the support from the moderators as well, by the way. They really are fantastic folks. And yes, let me just see if there's anybody else that I have missed. Alex Kane as well. Thank you very much, Alex, for tuning in today. Katrine and everybody else. So massive thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Back again same time next week, 4 p.m. for the 129th edition of the Global Weather and Climate Report Live. Then there will be a little adjustment in the scheduling because I will be going on holiday, but that is just over a week from now. So nothing changes up until then anyway. So keep it right here in the channel. Enjoy your Sunday evening, and I'll see you tomorrow with the European Outlook, probably around 5:30 uploaded then. Bye-bye.